So I went back home and I sat down and told my grandmother what happened. And she looked at me and, she told me, she said, the police officer was right when he told you, that you have a purpose. And she said, she told me that this is God's mercy to you. That He's sending these events in your life to make you realize that He loves you. He says, because if He didn't love you, He'd let you die. But He wants you to know Him. And He's allowing your life to be extended as a mercy till you know Him. So she said, go look for Him. So I went and renewed my search for God, needless to say. And I became an agnostic. Because I didn't believe formal religion, any formal religion had the truth. So I became an agnostic and decided that I was going to worship God and His oneness. And I used to pray every day, many times a day, bowing and prostrating on the floor, because this is how the Bible taught. This is how the Bible taught the prophets prayed. Abraham fell on his face and prayed. David fell on his face and prayed. And Jesus fell on his face and prayed. So I prayed this way. And then one day I was having a debate about religion with a friend of mine. And a mutual friend of ours, whom we knew through his business, happened to show up at that time and, told me that he was Muslim. At that point, he just decided to reveal that he was Muslim and asked me to come to Juma. And we knew him through his business, and it was this very business that did not allow me to realize until that time, and I had known him for almost a year, that he was Muslim, because I was not able to realize that he was a Muslim and a part-time drug dealer. Those two things from the book I read, I didn't think that was part of the job description. So, and he was African American, and I thought Muslims were Arab. So that threw me off, and then he explained to me, no, what kind of foolishness do you listen to? All the lingo, what are you, crazy? And he said, you need to come to Juma. He was like, I'm not a good enough Muslim to tell you about Islam, because I don't live it, apparently. And he said, but if you come to the mosque, there'll be people there who can help you. So I said, okay. I said, what is Juma? He said, it's Friday service, just like church on Sunday. There's just no chairs. I said, oh, okay. I said, I like church. No chairs, fine. No big problem with me. I sat on the floor all the time. I was a Boy Scout. I said, no problem. So I hyped myself up to go to this Juma, because all I knew about Muslims was this thing I read in the book. So number one, I was very scared to see that there were not many windows in the mosque. That was the first thing that scared me. The second thing that scared me was, and this might be shocking to you, that I lived across the street from this mosque all my life. When they told me where the mosque was, it was next door to the church that I used to go to learn how to become a missionary. And you could touch the two buildings like this. So I didn't know that. That was scary, to know that all these Muslims lived across the street from me all my life. So I went to Juma and sat down. And if I'm getting long-winded, somebody please stop me. I'm almost at the end, maybe 5-10 minutes. I sat down, and the person who gives the sermon got up. He's called a khatib in Arabic, which means, just a talker. And he started his sermon. His sermon was, Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu. And I said, oh my God. I said, he's talking about me. Because I was the only non-Muslim there. And I was the only person sitting away from everyone else. I said, he's talking about me. I'm in big trouble. I said, this guy, this drug dealer guy has set me up. Because I didn't see him. He wasn't there. I said, he must be their messenger to bring the non-Muslims. So, or the Americans, I thought about it. Because there wasn't many Americans there either. It was mostly an Egyptian and Syrian and Jordanian, mosque. So they were all Arabs. Most of them Arabs. And the ones that weren't Arabs, they were fair skins. I didn't know the difference. So, I started shaking. I said, okay, you're a martial artist. You can take a couple of them. You take a couple of them, you find the exit. So that only lasted about 30 seconds. He made it to English, and then he started translating what he recited in Arabic. And the translation was, all praise belongs to God, alone. We praise Him, we worship Him, we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. And that began to ease my heart a little bit. I said, okay, okay, calm down just a little bit. You're okay. And so I started to ease down in my seat a little bit, or my position on the floor. So, then, he would make it through some. And then every time, like every 5 minutes, he would go back to Arabic, and I would get scared again, thinking, now he's talking about me. But then he would translate it, and it would be so beautiful. What he would say would be so beautiful, words like I had never heard before, ever. And I had understood from knowing a little bit of Hebrew, I understood a little bit of it, a little bit, because Hebrew and Arabic are not too far apart. Ancient Hebrew and in Arabic, even in what's called Fusha, in ancient Arabic, are not very far apart. They're both ancient Semitic languages which have same roots. And I remember to this day what the sermon was about. Because as an agnostic, and what I had believed through reading the Bible, that was salvation comes from God alone. This was my conclusion. That the Bible says this, Jesus says this, nature tells you this, reasoning tells you this, logic tells you this. That God created me, therefore He's the only one who can forgive me. And this is what I would say to those who I was debating with at the end of my stage of Christianity, was that God did not question Jesus when He created me. He did not ask His permission. He made me and put me in the womb of my mother. Therefore, why do I need to ask anyone to worship Him? Why do I need to ask anyone or in anybody's name to forgive me? It didn't make sense to me. It didn't. And I'm not here to bash anyone's faith. I'm not. I'm just trying to give you my story. How I got where I'm at. How I got from there to here. That's it. And I remember that he told me, the sermon was that the forgiveness, don't despair in the mercy of God. That the door of mercy is always open to anyone at any time. And he said, as long as you have not died and the day of judgment has not come, that you can always fall on your face in front of God and ask Him for His forgiveness, and He can forgive you. And He's the only one who could grant you paradise. Him and Him alone. No one else. And He even said that your good deeds, your actions alone cannot even get you there. If you do good all your life, He said, you cannot go to paradise just merited on that alone, because the price for paradise is too high. The exchange rate would be nil. All your deeds would just fall away as dust at the price of paradise. He said, what will get you there is God's mercy. And that alone. And how do you obtain God's mercy? Obeying His commandments and asking for His forgiveness. That's it. He said, that's the step manual. That's the process to get there. Deeds will not do it. So, this to me was like, there's someone someone agrees with me. Somebody, I had to come to this mosque to find someone who agreed with me. These people who worship a moon god and bow to a box in the desert, at least they got this right. So, after this, they make prayer on Fridays. And so the Muslims started lining up in lines just like you're seated. And this really scared me because it looks, almost kind of like military lines. And I said, now they're coming to get me. They've gotten their little thing out of the way. Now it's time to get the good deeds, go get the American guy. So, but the guy told me, he came to me, I guess he saw my apprehension. He came, he said, no, we're going to pray. We're facing this way because this is the facing towards Mecca. And he explained to me really quickly that the Kaaba is not what we're worshiping, but it's a symbol of our unity. It's a symbol of the unity of God. It was the first house of God built by Abraham. And it's what Muslims still bow to all over the world. And we're bowing to God. We're just facing that direction. I said, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'll take that. And when they started to make prayer, number one, the recitation of the Quran was the most beautiful melodic tone I have ever heard in my life. And I was a lover of music. Number two is when they started bowing and prostrating on the floor. The verses of the Bible rang in my head that this was the way the prophets prayed. This is the way the people of God prayed. So I said to myself, and even Christians fought me against that, why I would prostrate on the floor and pray. I said to myself, you've wrote this off way too long. You've wrote this religion off way too easy. And I became upset with myself because I considered myself studious. I considered myself open-minded. I considered myself having an intellect. So I said, you wrote this off way too easy.